In just a few hours, we could be one step closer to ending the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. So 8 Senate Democrats broke away from the rest of the party last night, cutting a deal with Senate Republicans. A final Senate vote could happen today as flight cancellations pile up nationwide and food benefits hang in the balance for millions of Americans. The deal would reopen the government in exchange for a future vote on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies. Senate Majority Leader John Thune promised that vote will happen by mid-December. It also reverses federal layoffs made during the shutdown and funds the government through the end of January. Breakaway Democratic caucus members defended their vote late last night.
There was no guarantee we would ever get to an ACA solution. Now we've got robust SNAP funding and a guaranteed vote, not a guaranteed outcome, but a guaranteed vote on ACA tax credits.
To put people through the pain that they're now in and yet not achieve the result that you're going for, which is some deal on the ACA, to me just didn't make sense.
Joining me now in the group chat, Sabrina Rodriguez, national politics reporter at The Washington Post, Isaac Dovere, CNN senior reporter, and Catherine Lucy, White House correspondent for Bloomberg News. So first, I want to give people a sense of the mix of Democrats who came down for this vote, because most of them, they're retiring or they're for re-election. So politically, the stakes are not high for them. But Isaac, I want to start because the red flag to me was Dick Durbin. He's number 2, Senate Democrat. He's not going to get involved in this unless leadership in general is like, okay, now it's time.
Well, I mean, maybe. He's retiring himself. He's done next year. He is the number 2, voted for the deal. But Chuck Schumer and Brian Schatz, who is seen as the leader in waiting, voted against it.
Yeah, but don't they have to? I mean, they're on shaky ground with the progressives in the party.
I mean, they both voted for the deal that was made with Trump in the spring. So it is a little unclear what happened there. I do think what you see here going on is something that has been happening within the Democratic Party for these 9+ months of the Trump presidency, which is that there is a divide in the Democratic Party, not over age or ideology. We sometimes talk about that, progressives, Vermont. That's not what is going on. It is a divide between people who see this as needing to fight. Yes. And having a posture of fighting and fighting Trump and fighting for something, and those who basically are approaching this as we need to figure out a way through this, negotiate business as usual, whether it's an emergency situation or not. And that is what is playing out here again.
The axis of compromise. I want to talk about the folks who are on the end that's more of the fighting. 39 Senate Democrats, right, could still vote against this. Here's some of them.
Now, I know as part of this resolution that the majority leader is going to say, well, Democrats can put together their own bill, and it'll come to the floor here in the Senate for a vote. As everybody here knows, that is a totally meaningless gesture.
I mean, I voted no just because I'm so pissed off. I'm just frustrated that you're right, 40 days, and we gave them every chance to negotiate a moderate. Doesn't have to put the whole thing back. And they wouldn't do it.
I mean, pissed off, I think, is probably an accurate reflection of where a lot of Democrats, both on the Hill and in the country, are this morning. I think
but is it a meaningless gesture if it ends this thing and people are hurting?
I think that's the calculation that's challenging is, Democrats. But I think, one interesting dynamic to look at was the senators from Virginia who split on this. Obviously, Kaine saying that it was time, they needed to do something. Warner not agreeing to this deal. And that's a state that has been, obviously, like all states, hit by SNAP benefits, but also the impact on federal jobs there, federal workers.
Sure.
So this is a tough dynamic for Democrats, but you have a lot of people who felt like, we stuck it in here for this many days, trying to get something. You saw the election results last week. And
it brings me to Republicans, actually, because it could have always ended this way, which is you guys get your vote on this thing, we get our clean CR budget resolution, everyone goes home happy. This is kind of how it's happened in the past. We promise you we'll vote on this thing later, but they took a really long time to make that offer.
I mean, I think it's notable that it's less than a week out from the election where we saw Democrats perform well across the country and in key states. We knew that when we saw, the initial conversation was, oh, this can't last too long. Like this will get figured out. You know, that's usually what happens. And as it started dragging on, then there was more speculation and conversation about, wait, are both parties kind of waiting to see how things shake out in the election to sort of see who has more momentum on their side?
And who is getting blame? It wasn't working out the way people expected.
And we saw the president for weeks not really say too much about the shutdown, not talk too much or wade too much into what needed to be happening. But last week we did see him talk multiple times about him wanting to see moves on this. Now, for him, it started turning into a conversation about the filibuster and wanting to kill the filibuster.
Which is not in here.
Which is not in there and is not something that Senate Republicans wanted to have to deal with. So I think for them, that also put them in a position to say, what can we do here that moves the president away from the filibuster and gets us to a place that we can live with?
If approved, the deal would extend government funding through January 30th. It would fund SNAP benefits through the fiscal year of 2026 and reverse President Trump's layoffs of federal workers during the shutdown. But Democrats did not get the main thing that they've been fighting for, an agreement to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies. What they got instead was a promise from Republicans to hold a vote on that next month. For many Democrats, including the party's leaders, that's simply not enough. Without those credits, health insurance premiums could soar for millions of Americans. The Democrat-aligned lawmakers who crossed party lines to support the deal say they had little choice.
I understand that not all of my Democratic colleagues are satisfied with this agreement, but waiting another week or another month wouldn't deliver a better outcome. It would only mean more harm for families in New Hampshire and all across the country.
As I assessed it, there was zero chance of dealing with the ACA issue as long as the shutdown continued. Now, I don't know, 50-50, but there's a lot better chance now than there was this morning.
All right, joining me now is Steph Kite, a politics reporter with Axios. Just give us a sense of what the latest is right now. What will happen today?
Well, right now, the biggest question is whether there's going to be unanimous agreement in the Senate to move forward on this final vote on this package. Last night was a huge breakthrough, the first time that there were enough Democratic votes to even move forward with some kind of a bipartisan deal, but they still have to pass that final passage vote. And this could drag on for a couple days. All eyes are on Senator Rand Paul, the Republican from Kentucky, who often tries to drag these things out. It's unclear if there's going to be an agreement to get this done quickly. Then, of course, the House is going to have to come back and take this up as well. And it's not going to be an easy feat for Speaker Johnson to get this through his chamber either, especially given when it comes to these CRs, these short-term funding bills. There are many Republicans who are uncomfortable with continuing to vote for these to push back, the full appropriations process. It's also very clear that Democratic leadership is opposed to this deal, and that will keep many House Democrats in line. There are a handful of moderate House Democrats who will be looking for to see whether they're going to be willing to vote for this deal and provide some cover for Mike Johnson once this does get to the House. And of course, House members are going to have to get back to town relatively quickly at a time when we're seeing many canceled flights across the country and travel headaches.
Yeah, I mean, the very thing that they've caused with the travel headaches, they are now in a position to fix, but they might not be able to get there quick enough to do it very, very fast. But at this point in time, you're looking at those 8 Democrats who have pretty much crossed party lines and said, like, look, we need to go ahead and fund the government. Senator Fetterman obviously is someone who's going to stick to his guns, but is there any shakiness on the part of others who are hearing from their constituents as well and monitoring what is being said?
I mean, we'll see how today shakes out. The truth is, many of these Democrats have already, for several days, if not a couple weeks, been looking at some kind of bipartisan deal. They are already hearing from constituents about the impacts of the shutdown. So there's that factor as well. Some of these, 4 of these main votes here are former governors. They understand what it's like for states to be impacted by government shutdowns, and one that's prolonged, especially. We'll see, though, that the anger towards Democrats is very clear and was immediate. As soon as reporting was coming out about the contours of this deal, we were hearing from progressives in the House and in the Senate who are unhappy and feel that Democrats have gotten nothing from that. So whether we see that have an impact on these votes, it's still unclear. But for now, they seem locked in.
All right, Steph, Kai, thank you so much for your reporting this morning there from Washington.